We used to all share this collective industry fantasy about a magic button. Like, you sit down at your desk, you stare at that super intimidating blinking cursor,
Yeah.
and instead of wrestling with writer's block for 3 hours, you just push this button.
Oh, the holy grail.
Right. And instantly out pops a perfectly structured, grammatically flawless, fully optimized piece of content. I mean, the friction of creation is just entirely removed.
It was the ultimate utopian vision for content marketing, really. Like, the whole assumption was that once the production barrier dropped to absolute zero, marketers would finally have the breathing room to be, purely strategic.
Exactly. But today we are looking at a stack of sources heavily anchored by the HubSpot 2026 State of Marketing report, and the reality of this magic button is honestly just staring us in the face.
It's a very different picture than we imagined.
Yeah, because anyone listening to this deep dive right now has access to that technology. You can generate an entire campaign architecture in, 5 seconds?
If that.
Yeah. But our mission today is exploring a massive, glaring paradox. Because 83% of marketers are currently reporting that they feel more pressure to produce than at any other point in their careers.
Which is wild.
It is. The tool that was literally supposed to save us is actually drowning us.
Well, the baseline expectation has been fundamentally artificially inflated. I mean, if you look at the data points in the HubSpot report, you have 80% of marketing teams actively keeping their content budgets at absolute maximums or increasing them.
Right.
And 71% are leaning heavily into generative models to multiply their sheer volume of output.
Yeah.
But here is the critical failure point, and it's a big one.
Get me.
53% of those exact same teams are desperately struggling to differentiate their messaging. We are looking at a landscape that is just suffering from terminal content fatigue.
Content fatigue, wow.
Yeah, I mean, consumers are overwhelmed by the volume, and they are actively shutting down their attention receptors. It's just too much noise.
And the challenges for content marketing in 2026 are practically screaming from the pages of this research. We have 35% of businesses completely failing to drive actual audience engagement.
Yeah, basically talking to an empty room.
Exactly. Then 28% are hitting a wall trying to find fresh ideas, 27% are failing to maintain a consistent presence, and 25%, a full quarter of them, are unable to prove any tangible return on investment.
It's a tough spot to be in.
So the overarching question for you, the listener, is how do you prevent your daily output from becoming just, another drop in a sea of digital garbage?
Well, the root cause of this fatigue really stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the tool's role. Marketers are leaving the AI completely unsupervised.
Like just letting it run wild.
Basically, yeah. They are typing in a prompt, taking the output, and publishing it directly. And this creates what Kieran Flanagan at HubSpot identifies as the general content trap.
General content, right.
It is mechanically functional, sure, but it is utterly devoid of a pulse. It has no soul.
And I feel like the consumer's brain has evolved incredibly fast over the last few years to detect this. Like, we've developed this subconscious pattern recognition software for unsupervised AI.
Oh, 100%. We can smell it.
We really can. We read 2 paragraphs, and even if we can't perfectly articulate why, the lexical predictability, the sort of cadence of the words, it triggers a biological red flag.
Yeah.
The brain recognizes there is no lived experience behind the text, so it literally stops allocating glucose to process the information. We just check out.
Because consumers are actively, and I'd say aggressively, seeking out the human premium.
The human premium, I like that.
They're craving the friction, the mistakes and the nuanced emotion that an algorithmic model fundamentally cannot synthesize.
Right, because an AI can calculate the most statistically probable next word in a sentence about, say, failing a startup.
Sure, it can write the textbook definition of failure.
Exactly. But it cannot replicate the visceral, not-in-your-stomach reality of actually missing a payroll.
Right. Consumers want to read a newsletter where they can feel the author's anxiety or triumph. They want to hear the hesitation in a podcast host's voice.
They want the real stuff.
Yeah, they are scanning for the micro-expressions in the eyes of a founder speaking into a camera. It's all about authenticity now.
Okay, let's unpack this, though, because I am going to push back on the logistics here.
Go for it.
If the mandate for 2026 is higher volume, but deploying unsupervised AI triggers the consumer's ad blocker, forcing a human into the loop seems to break the model.
How so?
Well, using AI to write entirely is like serving your dinner guests microwaved frozen food and claiming you cooked it right. They can taste the lack of soul.
Absolutely.
But if I use an AI to write a draft, and then I have to spend 2 hours painstakingly injecting soul and messy mistakes and authentic experience into a super bland document, haven't I just created a massive editing bottleneck?
That's a very common concern.
I mean, that two-step workflow completely defeats the time-saving purpose of the technology. So if we can't let AI do the whole job, what's the actual workflow?
Okay, so that worry assumes you are using the AI to do the thinking
Yeah.
and the human to do the proofreading.
Right.
The successful framework for 2026 flips that entirely. It is the creative co-pilot method.
Creative Copilot.
The human does the thinking, the AI does the scaffolding. You don't ask the machine to write your story. You feed the machine your chaotic, disjointed voice notes, your bullet points, your raw experience.
All the messy human stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you ask the AI to build a structural architecture out of that mess. The machine builds the house, the human paints the walls and lives inside it.
Ah, I see. You're separating the ideation from the formatting.
Precisely.
So the AI overcomes the paralysis of the blank page, but the core thesis, the actual experience-led content, originates purely from the human mind.
Exactly. And when you maintain that human premium at the core of the idea, you then have to look at the most efficient delivery mechanism for that authenticity.
Where are we putting this content?
Right. And since consumers are craving the whites of the eyes and raw human authenticity, where's the best place to deliver that? The 2026 data points to one undisputed dominant medium.
Let me guess. Short-form video.
You got it. Short-form video.
I mean, the return on investment metrics for short-form video in this report are almost unbelievable.
They're staggering.
We are looking at a jump from a 24% ROI in 2025 to a massive 49% ROI in 2026.
It basically doubled.
Literally doubled. And marketers are seeing a 104% increase in perceived value compared to previous years. It has just skyrocketed in strategic importance.
And what's fascinating here is that the ecosystem supporting this shift is structural, not cyclical. It's not a passing trend.
Give me the numbers.
You've got TikTok sitting at 1.6 billion global users, which represents a 62% jump in usage from last year.
Wow.
Then YouTube Shorts is processing 200 billion views every single day.
200 billion daily.
Daily. And you have 3 billion Instagram users spending a full 50% of their screen time strictly engaged with Reels.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. Look at LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, the LinkedIn data is wild.
A platform historically dominated by, dry white papers, professional accolades, and 3-paragraph text posts. It saw a 36% jump in video views.
36%.
Right. Even in the most rigid B2B environments, buyers are just exhausted by corporate jargon. Like a chief technology officer making a $100,000 software purchase doesn't want to read another generic feature list.
No, they don't.
They want to see the founder of the software company sitting in their car explaining the philosophy behind the product code.
Totally. But that pivot toward B2B video raises a critical consideration about the broader content mix.
What's that?
Well, it is very easy to look at a 104% increase in the value of short-form video and conclude that the written word has just died entirely.
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate here. With all this focus on video, hasn't writing just become totally obsolete? Why would any marketing team in 2026 allocate a single dollar to maintaining a company blog?
Because writing isn't dead at all. It's just highly audience-dependent now.
Okay, explain that.
Text has shifted from a general awareness tool to a highly specialized conversion mechanism. Small businesses, for example, actually see a 23% higher than average ROI from blog articles.
Wait, really? Blogs?
Yes, because when a consumer has a hyper-localized problem, say, repairing a specific model of a leaking water heater, they aren't aimlessly scrolling TikTok for the answer.
No, they're Googling it in a panic.
Exactly. They are utilizing high-intent search queries that require text-based step-by-step solutions.
And on the opposite end of the spectrum, the report shows enterprise-level companies achieving over 24% ROI from deep dive ebooks.
Right. It's about the intent.
So video creates the initial human connection and the baseline trust. But you cannot explain the complex integration timeline of an enterprise software solution in a 60-second reel.
Exactly. The video earns the attention. The deep dive text closes the intellectual argument.
I want to emphasize the main takeaway here for the listener, especially regarding production. Because understanding that funnel brings us to the actual mechanics of video in 2026.
Right.
The companies achieving that staggering 49% ROI are doing something very counterintuitive. Video in 2026 doesn't mean Hollywood production
Not at all. In fact, they are deliberately avoiding high production values.
because it means authenticity. User-generated content UGC is driving 24% more ROI than highly produced agency-level advertisement.
The psychological mechanism here is just fascinating.
It really is. When a video opens with perfect three-point studio lighting, cinematic color grading, and flawless audio, the modern consumer's brain immediately categorizes it as a commercial.
Yep. The psychological drawbridge comes up, and skepticism just takes over instantly.
But when the video features slightly shaky camera work, natural window light, and the raw echo of a normal room, it completely bypasses that neurological ad blocker.
Because it feels like a dispatch from a peer, rather than a broadcast from a corporation. Lowering the barrier to trust requires lowering the artificial polish.
Exactly.
But, and this is a big but, deploying this authentic video strategy introduces a severe operational reality.
Burnout.
The burnout is real. The velocity of the social landscape is brutal. The data shows the #1 challenge for marketing teams right now, cited by 32% of respondents, is simply keeping up with new trends.
I mean, cultural trends shift every 48 hours now.
Right. And right behind that, at 30%, is the challenge of surviving algorithmic updates.
So if the algorithm changes every 3 weeks and trends move at lightning speed, a static piece of content decays almost instantly. How is a marketing team supposed to target their audience effectively without burning out their entire staff just chasing moving goalposts?
So the operational shift for 2026 to solve this is moving away from static assets and adopting what are called living campaigns.
Living campaigns. Okay, break that down.
Historically, a campaign was a fixed asset. You produced a hero image, wrote the accompanying copy, targeted an audience segment, and let it run for 30 days.
The campaign was an artifact, like you put it in a museum display case and just hope the right people walked by to look at it.
Great analogy. Living campaigns, on the other hand, utilize AI dynamically at the point of distribution.
Dynamic distribution.
Yes. The system automatically adjusts the copywriting, the color palettes, the underlying emotional hooks, and the imagery in real time, executing hyper-personalization at scale.
Give me a concrete example.
Take a supplement brand. The core product is a protein powder. But instead of one generic ad claiming it provides, more energy, the system generates thousands of modular variations simultaneously.
Let's look at the mechanics of how that actually renders on a user's screen. If I am an endurance athlete scrolling through a feed, the platform registers my behavior profile. In milliseconds, the AI selects an image of a runner, rewrites the headline to focus on muscle recovery times, and serves the ad.
Right.
But a split second later, a senior citizen scrolls past the exact same campaign placement.
And the AI dynamically swaps the image to a grandparent lifting a toddler and rewrites the copy to focus on joint health and longevity.
That's wild. It is one single campaign budget instantly adapting its psychological approach based on the specific viewer.
And the empirical evidence supporting this approach is overwhelming. A staggering 93% of marketers acknowledge that this level of personalization directly increases sales.
93% know it works. But wait, the HubSpot report also exposes a massive execution gap here.
Oh, it's huge.
Despite near universal agreement on its effectiveness, only 13% of companies are actually running hyper-personalized campaigns. I have to stop here because that gap makes zero logical sense. If 93% of an industry knows a specific tactic prints money, but only 13% are doing it, it's not a lack of desire.
No, it's a fundamental infrastructural failure.
Why is there such a massive gap? Why can't these companies execute?
This raises an important question, and the answer is what we call the data drought.
The data drought?
Businesses want to feed the AI the necessary inputs to build a living campaign, but they simply do not possess the required data. The reality is they just don't have it.
What are the numbers on that?
The statistics are sobering. Only 39% of businesses possess even basic demographic information on their audience.
Wow, only 39%.
Just basic demographics. A mere 17% understand their customers' actual expectations. Only 16% know real pain points, and only 31% have detailed purchase histories.
So you cannot ask a generative AI to instantly rewrite an ad for an endurance athlete if your internal database doesn't even know that the user bought running shoes from you 6 months ago.
Exactly. The machine is sitting there, ready to do the work, but has no raw material to process.
The data drought. That makes perfect sense. And the report points out the direct correlation here, right?
Absolutely. The cost of operating in that data vacuum is severe. The better a specific channel handles segmentation and personalization data, the higher its aggregate ROI.
Like when data is properly applied, web and SEO channels jump to a 28% ROI, and social shopping skyrocketed to 29%.
Right. So the real competitive advantage in 2026 isn't having the most clever copywriter or the most viral video hook.
What is it?
The advantage is solving the data routing problem. The organizations pulling ahead are the ones tearing down the walls between their customer relationship management systems, their CRM, and their content generation tools.
The tech solution.
Exactly. That integration is the entire ballgame.
Eh.
Tools like HubSpot Breeze AI are dominating the landscape because they connect your CRM directly to your content tools.
So they don't operate in a vacuum.
Right. The AI is natively embedded. When the living campaign needs to render an ad, it isn't guessing based on broad third-party market research.
It's using its own data.
It is utilizing an API to instantly pull first-party data, past email opens, specific product pages visited, previous support tickets, and seamlessly pull all of that to prompt the large language model.
So the personalized content is generated based on highly specific, individualized, actionable intelligence.
Yes.
Okay, let's bring this back to the reality of the daily workflow for a second.
Sure.
I am picturing a lean marketing team of 3 or 4 people listening to this. They have their CRM connected to their AI, they have their data sorted, and they are tasked with creating hyper-personalized content across a half dozen different platforms.
How daunting.
Right, because even with the AI doing the heavy lifting of the dynamic rendering, simply feeding the machine enough core ideas to fuel 5 different social channels, a blog, and a newsletter, I mean, that sounds like a recipe for total cognitive exhaustion. How can the listener actually execute this at scale?
It is exhausting if you view each platform as requiring a unique, bespoke idea from scratch. But the strategy that prevents that burnout is multimodal remixing.
Multimodal remixing. This is the big pro tip of 2026.
Definitely.
Think of multimodal remixing through the analogy of a massive block of marble. You do not need to mine a brand new block of marble every single day.
No, that is exactly how a marketing team burns out.
You just need one incredibly high-quality block of marble.
And that block is your core piece of human-led content. It might be a deeply researched 3,000-word blog post that took a whole week to write.
Right. Packed with unique industry insights, original data, and the raw, lived experience of your experts.
You put all of your human capital into creating that one masterpiece. You don't need a new idea every day.
Then you bring the AI into the workflow not as a creator, but as a chisel.
I love that. A chisel.
You feed that master text into the multimodal tool. You aren't asking it to invent new thoughts. You are asking it to parse the existing geometry of your human idea.
In seconds, the AI dissects those 3,000 words. It isolates a compelling narrative hook and formats it into a 15-second script for TikTok. Then it extracts 3 key statistical arguments and structures them perfectly for a swipeable Instagram carousel.
It pulls the macro themes and generates an outline for your weekly podcast topic.
And it synthesizes the entire piece into an executive summary for your Friday email newsletter.
You are achieving maximum algorithmic reach with minimum burnout while maintaining strict quality control over the underlying thought leadership.
Because the machine handles the repetitive labor of formatting and distribution, allowing the human team to focus their energy entirely on the depth of the original idea.
But once that remixed content is formatted and ready for deployment, we have to look at who is actually amplifying it.
Yes, distribution.
Because broadcasting it from a faceless corporate account is increasingly ineffective in 2026. The final layer of the strategy is all about building real communities.
The power of community distribution. And the influencer landscape has undergone a massive correction here.
A huge one. Currently, 89% of companies are executing campaigns in partnership with creators.
Which is a 50% jump from the data we saw in 2024.
Exactly. But the target demographic for those partnerships, the sweet spot, has completely shifted.
For years, the industry chased either the macro celebrities with millions of followers or the hyper-niche nano-influencers with, 1 to 10,000 followers.
But the 2026 data clearly shows that those nano-influencers have lost popularity. They're yielding the lowest returns and rapidly losing market favor.
The absolute real power, the center of gravity for community trust right now, is the micro-influencer.
Micro-influencers. So we are looking at creators operating strictly in the 10,000 to 100,000 follower range.
Yes. And brands are reading this dynamic perfectly, with 77% of marketers indicating plans to aggressively pump more of their budget into this specific tier.
If we break down the mechanics of why that micro tier is the sweet spot, it is a pure mathematical intersection of reach and community management bandwidth.
It's Dunbar's number applied to the digital age.
Exactly. A creator with 50,000 followers has a stable, deeper connection with their audience. They have enough scale to justify high-quality production habits and deliver real impressions for a brand.
But they are still small enough that they can physically read their comment section.
Right. They can reply to direct messages. They can cultivate a genuine, two-way parasocial relationship.
When an influencer scales to 1 million followers, it ceases to be a community. It just reverts to a traditional one-way broadcast network.
Yep. The micro-influencer retains the conversational intimacy that makes the recommendation feel authentic rather than transactional.
It's all about trust.
So what does this all mean? When we synthesize this entire deep dive for the listener, the mandate for content marketing in 2026 becomes incredibly clear.
It really does.
Winning is no longer a function of volume. It is not about being the loudest entity on the feed or pressing the magic AI button the fastest to flood the zone with general content.
No, winning in 2026 isn't about being the loudest. It's about being the most sincere.
Sincerity over volume.
Winning requires a strategic allocation of your technological and human resources. You use AI to save time, draft, and dynamically adjust your living campaigns.
The technology ruthlessly eliminates operational friction. It bypasses the blank page, deepens CRM integration, and seamlessly remixes core ideas.
But you use your human element to add the emotion, the mistakes, and the lessons that AI cannot replicate.
The technology only works if it is carrying a payload of human sincerity. You must fiercely protect that human element. The messy anecdotes, the hard-earned industry lessons, the unfiltered eye contact in a short-form video, those are the premiums that algorithmic models cannot synthesize.
And they are exactly what the exhausted consumer is desperately searching for.
But before we wrap up, I want to toss it back to you for a final thought.
Yeah, I want to leave the listener with a final lingering question to ponder on their own as they evaluate their content infrastructure.
Lay it on us.
If we are moving toward a world where AI allows every single brand to achieve flawless, instantaneous hyper-personalization, does perfect personalization eventually just become the new general content?
Oh, wow.
Right. When a brand knows exactly what you want to hear, down to the syllable, and serves it to you frictionlessly, at what point do you stop trusting it? When does the feeling of being deeply understood curdle into the feeling of being seamlessly manipulated?
That is a fascinating threshold to consider. When the machine knows precisely how much salt you prefer on your meal, it might taste perfect, but the consumer's brain still knows it was assembled on a factory line.
Incredible point to end on. You've been listening to The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us as we unpack the data today, and we'll catch you next time.